Hello, everybody. Sunday Adelaja here. Sorry, please, for coming so late. We are 25 minutes late. That is unbelievable. Some complications here technically with the team, but thank God we're here. We are back. So please go ahead and share the message with your friends and family. let let's start the program on time. The program is going to be very special, and I'm asking you to please go ahead and call on your friends and family members, everybody that you know and you care for. This program is going to be, in fact, I've been looking for this particular person to come and share his experience. That I was just saying, my God, I didn't even know that he was the one coming today, and I'm so excited he's the one that is here today. And please go call as many people as you care for. Tag them, go and share in the inboxes, go and share in the timeline, go and share in the groups. And this is the book we are going to be discussing: The Essence and Value of Life. The Essence and Value of Life. The Essence and Value of Life. So this book is what we are going to be discussing today with Ben Okoh. Hello, Ben.
Hello, sir.
How are you doing today?
Very fine. Very fine. Thank you. Very
Yeah,
well.
I had a conversation with you when you called right into the program one time.
Yes.
And, that conversation is not getting out of my head. That conversation
Yeah.
we had is, I mean, I didn't know, you didn't know on one hand the kind of life that Pastor Sunday was living, but on the other hand, I didn't
Yeah.
know the life everybody else is living too. So you open my eyes as much as I open your eyes.
Hmm.
Can you recap the essence of our discussion that day? Because you were talking for like 1 hour,
Yeah. I,
and I couldn't just stop you. I couldn't take the microphone from you.
yeah. It's very hard. I don't even know if I can recap it now because I know that I'm different now from then. So at that time, I was probably very different from today. But I remember that what you were, it was something about love. When love turns to hate. I think that was what it was, the show. That was the when I called in. And it was talking about love. And I thought about it that I don't think it's possible because at the same time I was on the mentoring program. I just started it. And I'd read some of the things the resources that have been provided. I hadn't read the book, but I read those resources that were based on the book. And all the things that you were writing were, I couldn't understand them. The thing is, I would never personally have read that book yet. I mean, you have so many good books that um, trying to know what the essence and value of life is did not look like a priority to me. I would have never read it, you know. But I did because it was the first program on the course. So just because it was the first program on the course, that was why I actually read it. And I think what didn't make sense to me was how on earth could you not live for wisdom, wealth, or power? To me, that's the whole thing that makes you relevant. That's the whole thing that makes your life purposeful. To not live for it, it didn't make sense.
I call them
And
three big, the three big
yes,
ones. That is
yes,
wisdom, wealth, and power. That we don't live for any of those
yes.
ones.
Wow. And that didn't make sense at all. That it didn't make sense. Because the thing is, I remember you said there was once you did an analysis of the people who were on your side. And you said there were quite a number of men that were watching you. What attracts really people to listen to anybody? It's a lot to do with this. It's either there's some wisdom in it, or or something to do with wealth that's going to prove what you are, or it has something to do with power. And now I see it more like a relationship. I now start to understand it more like your relationship with these things in terms of wisdom, wealth, and power. What sort of relationship do you have with them? Because I would have said that, oh, DSA is highly powerful. It's somebody who's achieved something very few blacks in the world has achieved. So, yeah, that's power. I would say, well, because you've shown how you raised so many millionaires and yourself were able to make a lot of money yourself. Uh, wow, that when you think about it, that is the height of what anybody would feel like doing. You have the influence, you have intelligence. You can write so many books. And so the WWP, it looks like, hey, DSA is the thing. So when you're aspiring, I was not. Your everything you were teaching, I was contextualizing it different from what you were expecting. So now I know that's what it was. But when you're teaching, for example, you say Uncle Sam, stop working for Uncle Sam. To me, that means okay, yes, the system is trying to control you. Leave that system so that you can come into this greater wisdom and you can get into this greater wealth and you can come into this greater power that is higher than what the world system will limit you with. So it's still the same thing. It's just outside of it. So you're interpreting is the way you interpret what you're doing, and that was exactly what that really struck me. I wrote some notes. I don't know if we've got to that point yet,
Yeah, but do you
but
really, can you, but I'm sure you believe me now if I tell you that, yes, if Pastor Sunday got some wisdom, yes, I guess I might be aware of it, but I don't even care about it. I mean, it doesn't play a big role in my life. It's not a big thing.
that that
And do I have
is
some? Do I have some
yeah.
resources, money, wealth? Maybe I'm not even aware. Maybe I am aware, but I don't even. I'm not conscious of them. I mean, it's not a big deal. Those are tools. Just like you possess, you have a shirt like this in your house, like this shirt. I never even remember I had it until I went to see it, even though it's mine. Something like that. Or like you use tools like fork and knife to eat. You never think about them, even though you have them in the house and you use them to eat when the need comes. But these are not things you go ahead and be thinking about. I have fork and these are not the essence of life. The same thing is wealth. The same thing is wisdom. And the same thing is power. With the same attitude we must have to power, to wisdom, and to wealth. So WWP, wisdom, wealth, power, we must relate to them just like we relate to our pairs of shoes or to our clothes or to our cutleries that we use to eat. Basic.
But the problem is that the interaction with even these things that you are calling basic is the same. In short, something like wisdom, wealth, power is like up there. I mean, if you wear a shirt, well, that's why branded shirts sell more. I mean, if you have a logo on your shirt, the shirt is a lot more value. So people will pay a lot of money to have a big logo on front of the shirt. Like you have two shirts, one has a small logo, one has a massive logo, and it's probably Tommy Hilfiger or whatever, it's their Polo or whatever, Ralph Lauren. Once you have that on your shirt, it shows what you bought it, how much you bought it. So the relationship, like you're saying, oh, I don't even know whether the shirt is there. People might have 500 shirts, probably the same number of clothes you have there, so many. But they will still have a lot of relationship with these things because these things actually have to do with your status. These things have to do with your identity or the perception of your identity. So there's a big difference because yours is more about the core. Because you've removed these things, we're just seeing you. But for those of us who are still hung up on prestige and power and wealth and wisdom, we need something to project. So I see it more like it depends on societies. In Africa, maybe I would say Nigeria particularly, I know that their way is to project a lot of, like if you don't have something, you project the image of it. So if you're not wise, you can just get some wise talk and repeat the wise talk. And hey, if people buy it and it sells.
No,
But
no.
you're trying to,
But that is all, even the projection you are talking about is all
yeah,
wrong. Because we are not supposed to be projecting anything material and identify ourselves with them. We are not supposed to be
right.
projecting wealth and identify ourselves. We are not supposed to be projecting riches or power or wisdom. We are supposed to be projecting the will of God, the purposes of God on the earth, and the relationship that we have with God, the qualities of God, the characteristics of God, the nature of God. Those are the things we are supposed to be projecting. Those other things are tools that we use to just perform the real thing that we project, which is the will of God and the purpose of God. We bring the glory of God and we subdue the earth. That's why we need those things, and that's the only way, that's the only reason why we even think about them or use them.
I think there are very few people who have that sort of view. That's the way I'll see. And why I would think that view is probably because I haven't met a lot of people that hold that view. And even it's not until I read the book
Where is your microphone?
of
You have
mine.
microphones?
Well, I'm using a headphone, so
Okay. Is there any way to make it the microphone come
louder.
closer to your mouth?
Okay, let's see. Is it better now? Is it
Because
clearer?
maybe you might need to hold it actually, because
Okay.
I don't know why. What about if you just talk directly? It won't without the headphone.
Okay. I think what I could do is to speak into like this,
Yeah, much
and
better.
then I'll use one to hear and one to speak.
Much better. Much better.
That better? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Sir, you are
Okay.
saying something, sir.
Yeah. Let me see if I can catch my thought. Okay. I'll probably, there's some things I wrote because there's so many things I got out of this that sometimes it's very difficult to have. I said that there are not a lot of people I know that have your point of view. And another thing is I wouldn't know, possibly for because in your case, I knew because I read the book. So as we were reading the book, I started to reinterpret the things you were doing. So I started to make meaning to the things you were doing in a different sort of way. Then I started to say, wait a minute, DSA is actually seeing things in this sort of way. Wow. And that changed it for me. That changed. That's when I started trying to reinterpret everything. So everything started to make a different meaning. When I listen to a different message, it's absolutely different when you think of it without wisdom, wealth, and power involved in it. It's totally different. I see it more like we're drunk, because you're drunk on the desire for these things, that you can't, everything you do, you're trying for them. And I think that it gets worse in terms of church, when church is involved or religious institutions are involved, because when they've actually indoctrinated you with that desire, because already we have probably a natural desire that everybody has. But when you are somewhere and they keep emphasizing it, it makes it even more, the need for it becomes more. And when that becomes more, you start to go
I want
farther
you
and
to
farther
tell
away.
us first of all the initial shock or surprise that you got by starting to read the book and
Oh my
getting to
goodness.
know what Pastor Sunday's worldview is.
Wow, I think it was an absolute shock. Now I probably, if I think of it now, I think I'm getting better now. But at the time, it was completely shocking. It was really shocking. I couldn't really, I didn't even know. I think when I read it, it was like the carpet has just been pulled, the rug has just been pulled off my feet. That's how I felt. I felt like, what? I felt uh, empty and lost. That's just because this is what you're trying for. And I won't say that I'm a greedy person. I won't say that I'm a selfish person. Actually, I actually do quite some good things, but it made me think about the good things I was doing and why I was doing the good things I was doing. I do good things, and I'm generally very, courteous. I like to help in my work. I have passion for, in education. I want to make a difference and so on. But these things are not the core. It's not the core of it. It's something you do in addition. It's a nice thing you do after you've done other things. That's why it made sense to me that the way to go was to get more wealth, more power, more get the wisdom, get the wealth, get the power. Because when you get that, then you have extra to actually do those things. But yours is absolutely different from that.
But
It's not the same.
what that will mean
Yeah.
is that you are actually pursuing those things.
Yes, so that you
And
can
then
actually
when,
have.
yeah, I understand your good intention, and the good intention you are having is
Yeah,
that I want to
yeah,
get
true.
as much wealth as possible, or maybe as
Yeah.
much wisdom as possible, as much power as possible, so that when I have a lot, I will be able to do a lot of good works. But that is not the way
Yes.
life is supposed to be lived. You don't pursue wealth. You don't pursue wisdom. You don't pursue power. You don't live for those things. The way life is supposed to be lived is you actually supposed to pursue the kingdom. And it is in the process, when you pursue the kingdom, in the process of pursuing the kingdom, it is for the purpose of pursuing and establishing the kingdom that you want to get wealth. So that wealth will be used on mainly, basically, to help you project the kingdom. It is because you want to advance the kingdom, that is why you need the wisdom. That's why you go and acquire the wisdom for the sole purpose of using it to advance the kingdom. It is because you want to advance the kingdom, that's why you need the power, and that's why you go after the power, but the power is not your pursuit. The power is never the goal. The wealth is never the goal. The wisdom is never the goal. So what is the goal? The goal is what is motivating you. And your motivating force is your God. So what should be motivating you is the love for the Father, the kingdom advancement, your passion to advance the kingdom of God, your willingness to fill the earth with his glory. That is what should be your motivating power. Not the desire to acquire wealth or wisdom or power.
Okay. The thing is, like what you said now, right? After I'd heard that and really read it and saw that that was the case, and when the difficulty was, oh my goodness, what is this? So shock. First of all, I went into shock for a bit. Then I tried to get myself together. I listened to it again and again. Then it started to make sense because I started to pick out this because the first time I read it, there's some things you don't pick out the first time. It's the shocking things that hit you first time. After this, you've normalized the shock. Then you start going to the detail in the book. So I started looking at things like peace and all these things that were listed as reasons why you need to have that you have peace. And really, I thought peace, in the life that when you're living the life of this WWP, that's wisdom, wealth, and power. Peace is it can be it's not important. It's not as important to what you need to get. I mean, it's you feel that so you can endure some pain. You should. This is the way life is. That's life. Life has pain in it, and so hey, we go out there provided you get, because the most important thing is that you're the one on top. The most important thing is that you're the one that knows it. The most important thing is you're the one in charge. So endure pain. Everybody's going through it. And more things, there are so many things. Culture feeds this kind of behavior. Television programs feed this sort of behavior. When you watch Apprentice or you watch Shark Tank or all these business programs, it shows aggressive people, or Donald Trump and his program. It shows aggression. And when we look at that, you feel like, whoa, if I'm not aggressive, I cannot, I can't compete. And yeah, I mean, I read so many books. I was reading Career Warfare. There's some really aggressive books. And the thing was, what I found out was that I had actually taken, because at work, when I was working, and I used to do more than I was paid for. I was doing so many things. I was helping a lot of people. I was doing things. But reading the book, I started thinking that yes, these were good things, and yes, I had the mind for the children. I always do. So that's the thing that gives me the passion. But I had actually, I don't know what word is this, when you weaponize. I actually weaponized the good things, because I was using the good things also as good as you are doing it. It's also moving your career. So you weaponize the good things. It's not like what I felt I was reading in your book, where you do good things and regardless of if the people thank you or not, if it has any benefits, clear benefit or not, this is truth. This is justice. This is kindness. This is there were some other ones I wrote there, righteousness. This is knowledge. So this is what I'm doing, because these are the principles. where you're operating by principles. No, it's not really that. It's always, I will help people, but, it's also, there's always a benefit. And it's similar. I think that's just the normal way the world works. Because charity, for example, celebrities will give to charity. It's like, oh, I give this amount. But giving to charity is good for your PR. It's good for your, it comes back to you. I mean, some of it you get benefits for your business, you get a tax bonus. There's so many benefits to it. Everybody knows. So it's that thing that, okay, yes, it's better to help. So it wasn't like this is the core thing I'm living and dying for, which was different. And when I read the book, it said there's so many notes. So I just thought before today, I thought, okay, let me just stop. Anything that hits my mind now, I'll just write it. And then as to, some of the things I thought. So I just picked up paper and wrote two things. That reading the book, there were two parts. One was dignity and one was God. And dignity part of it came to me when I was thinking about when I'd accepted what you said. And, accepted, okay, it makes sense. At the end of life, what is it really? I know enough people who are trying and trying and trying to make wealth. If you get to the end of it, that type of life is definitely different. It's different from somebody who's lived their life to show love and to help people. So I thought, okay, this thing makes sense. When I accepted it, there was another problem. How do you internalize it? Because it's so distant to me. And it's so different from the way I'm thinking. Even though I was listening to it so many times, it did not appear to be making a lot of difference. And it reminded me of this story in the Bible that talks about a rich man who met Jesus, and Jesus said, leave everything, sell all the things you have and give away to the poor. Come and follow me. And he walked away sad, even though he was already doing everything. And he said, I'm keeping the law. I'm doing everything right. I have money. And I feel like that man was somebody who had attained these things. He's attained all these things. He's attained everything. But giving it up, that was difficult for him to walk away. And I think that's the place where I got to, where it's so difficult to feel, okay, I'm starting all over again now. That means everything I knew was wrong. Where do I start? It just throws you off. You just don't know. You just have sort of an identity crisis, really. But what I wrote about the dignity was, I don't know if I'm right or not, but I wrote that the only way that it was possible to internalize it, one of the ways of internalizing it, was if the learning was becoming your identity. So if I was reading it and trying to convert it in terms of internalize it, so that when I look at myself, this is who I am. That if it's me, I'm the one who is justice, is virtually another version of who I am. Knowledge of God is what I represent. Kindness is what I represent. Doing things right is what I represent. So that the pride, if I have any self-pride, that self-pride is not my own personal self-pride, but the self-pride is in that knowledge that I have. And that's why I came with that idea of dignity in terms of internalizing it. And that was the first one. The second one was
Brilliant.
God.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yes, because I found that
Absolutely brilliant.
And actually something that relates with this that I found, which I guess it relates to everything else, was I realized that you cannot internalize anything, especially if it's a value you observe with someone else, if you esteem the person higher, very high. So if you see someone as untouchable,
Well, that is
you
so
can't
good.
speak with them, you can't talk to them.
Wow.
It doesn't matter what they tell you, you cannot internalize it.
Wow.
Because you need to see somebody as someone that you can do the same thing they're doing to actually do it.
That makes a lot of sense to me, because a lot of pastors actually tell people that they can also, that they preaching to people, but they are not reproducing same kind of people that will do the same thing they are doing, because they make the people to want to worship them, and they make themselves look much superior to the people. So that's why people are just like going to worship them, right?
You can never rise up knowledge has to be at your level. And that's why when in the old times you have Plato, Socrates, and all these people who used to teach, Alexander the Great was one of their students. If he hadn't been a student of these thinkers, he would have never turned out to be as great as he was. But the thing was that they only educated the elite. So the elites come as people who are same level. So they engage as people who are same level with that knowledge. But people who are poor will probably look at it like, oh, these people are up there. So even if they shared the same thing with them, it won't have the same effect.
Wow.
This empowers the knowledge, really. Knowledge loses power when you esteem the person higher than you.
Wow.
So now I see why you sort of have this way of coming down and talking to everybody and relating with every kind of person. I figured out that if I wanted to do the kind of things you were achieving and doing, then I had to see it as something I could do.
Yeah.
Or I had to see you as someone that was like me, and therefore I could do what you were doing.
Yeah.
But if what you're doing is contained in a godlike being that is high up there, I'll never achieve it. You can never achieve anything that you do not see yourself in. You can't do what you can't think.
Yeah.
And you can think it in the sense of you be thinking about it, but that's not the kind of thinking that makes people change or makes something change. You actually have to see it as feasible. You have to look at it as possible. It has to look like something that you can be part of before it starts to make a difference.
Right.
So that was the one I got for dignity, internalization, learning, becoming, identity. That was the note. Another thing was about God. And the part was that I found out that this whole book, essence and value of life, is about God. It's just God is the center of it. And that is a big problem.
Big problem?
Big problem. Oh, yes, it's a big problem. It's a big problem because a lot of people talk about God already. So if you say, this is about God, they'll say, yes, I know God. I talked to him yesterday. I prayed. I give. And so there's a lot of things, a lot of religious, and it's not just Christianity, any religion, that people already have a relationship or a presumed relationship with God. But it's very different when it comes down to principle. And that's why you find a lot of people will go spend hours in church. They'll probably give a lot of big money. But when it's time to work or trying to work for money, they forget everything and just do anything. There's no standard. Or those who don't have conscience will compromise quickly. When something comes, and they'll come and pay some money back to church for the thing that they've done that is wrong. So God is not there. He's not with you all the time, and it doesn't define what you're doing. This one is the kind of thing where God becomes real. So I feel as if this is one of the things I wrote. I found that for me, I think I was minus 500. If you had to rate where people are, I think I was minus 500. And what I mean by minus 500 means I was so far from normal. So I feel as if normal is 0, all right? And then after that, you're now positive. But I think I was minus 500, and now maybe I'm minus 15. I don't even think I got to normal yet. Really, even with the number of times I've read the book and the number of times I've thought about it.
How many times have you read the book?
I've read the book fully 15 times.
Woo!
Then repeats. Like if you repeat, because sometimes I'll take a chapter, I'll take a part of it and repeat that part of it so many times that if I had to analyze it that way, it's probably 20. If you look at it in terms of parts that I read so many times. And
but fully 15 times.
Yeah.
You really wanted to get the message.
I wanted to get it. I wanted to get it.
And you wanted the message to become flesh, not just to get in your head, but to become the principles that are the guiding principles for your life.
Yeah, because I figured out that there was no need to rush to the next book. For example, you have very good books, especially books on finance. As I said earlier, this is a book I would never read. If it wasn't in the mentoring course, I won't read it. Because I don't think I have a problem with essence of value of life. Seriously. I mean, that's for somebody who doesn't know where they're going. So it's the essence of value of life. Okay, that's for the lost. Okay, I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. But it's not until I went to the mentoring course I found, what? this is the foundation of the whole thing. I mean, if you don't really have this foundation, then yeah, you're doing your own thing, and yeah, you're literally doing your own thing at the end of it. You're doing your thing, and yeah, that's what everybody's doing. So hey, you won't be the only one. But this is this book was really changing, changed everything. And one of the things I wrote, God, I said, one of the things is sometimes there's this view when you're feeding on, it depends on what you feed on when it comes to God. There's one part that said God is far and hard to get, which is the kind of things that you get in any religion. Because religion is necessary because God is far. And God is not there, and God is difficult. Otherwise, why do you need religion? You need religion because God is distant, so you need to do these prayers, you need to do, and it doesn't matter the religion. There needs to be effort, there needs to be pain, there needs to be price involved in it. God is far. So that's one. I think when you feed a lot on God is far and you need to do things, then you're in the negative. When you start going negative, 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 the more you go into it, the more farther away you go from common sense or natural thinking, like human being. You go farther from being a human being as you get more of that. Then God is not here. God exists. I think God does not exist. That's zero. So what somebody's not, I don't mean like those who are like atheists in terms of they're really passionate atheists or religious. It's almost a religion. Just someone who doesn't know whether God is there or not. I think that's normal. So those people, if they get to find out about God, then they start going positively quite quickly because they're not down. There's no negative. Then God is my friend. I know Him. That's positive. Because if you really know, then everything here starts to make sense. Everything else starts to make sense. Everything here starts to make sense. So that's one of the things. There's something else I wrote. Let me see something else I wrote here. Okay, yes, you mentioned people commit crimes because they don't know. So is this knowledge of yourself, knowing who you are and knowing who God is and knowing who you are in God. That is the whole thing about knowledge. And when you find yourself caught in habits, when you find yourself, daydreaming, I think it was yesterday, just to know how the session is, I think I watched a bit of the book review yesterday. Not all of it, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So the lady was talking about daydreaming. So I think you mentioned that you do all those things when you don't know your purpose. So it's more or less not having understanding of your essence of value. Then you have all these daydreaming problems. And then you have other things that go with it. So all the vices that go with it. So therefore, if you wanted to solve those things, you should look more about understanding your value and essence. It will reduce the power of those things. It's very interesting because my wife, I spoke with her, she's a doctor, and there was something we spoke about habits. We had this discussion about habits. And we found out that she made mention that you cannot overcome a bad habit by suppressing it. So if you have, if it's weight or something, like me, I get on a treadmill sometimes, I do a lot of working, a lot of activity. There are days when you really feel like it, like, yes, I'm going, let's do it. When you have that mind, right, you do a lot. But what happens is you just go 3 days, simply just that initial strength is gone.
Yeah.
Because it's just a cover to the underlying thing. You have to reduce the things that make the habits come up. So probably when you're at home, a TV program comes on, that TV program makes your mind think of popcorn, then you go to the fridge and get the popcorn, and those are triggers. All these triggers are all around you. So you have to actually suppress the trigger to be able to, and I think it applies in this kind of topic. As long as maybe you are in a setting where there are lots of people who are ambitious in a very proud sort of way, you are more likely to to behave like that. You need to sort of have a different way of a group of people who have different sort of desire. And when there are not many, as in this case, where there are not many people who think like that, it might be a case of reading. Read so much that you are lost in the world of this kind of thinking that is selfless. Another thing I wrote was that WWP, which is Wisdom, Wealth, and Power, requires comparison and so close proximity mentally or emotionally, at least, to the society or others you are compared to. So wealth and wisdom and power is not important if you're not in close proximity to the people that you can compare yourself to, and you can actually relate that it has no value if there are nobody around you. For example, if you were all alone in an island and you had all the wisdom, all the wealth, all the power, and you're the only one there, it doesn't make any meaning.
Yeah.
You won't even seek it because, hey, I'm the only one here. When someone else comes, then you need wealth. Then you need power to show that you're bigger than that person.
Yeah.
Then you need wisdom because you have to be smarter than someone else. But therefore, it's your relationship with people. This now becomes something where it's about your relationship with people. So I started thinking about that in terms of the WWP has something to do with relationship. It has to do with your engagement with the world. Because the other way of living says that when you do it on values of essence of value of life, on the other hand, requires proximity for understanding the needs. So it's not proximity to express the power and express the wealth. It's now proximity to serve. It's to understand the needs, provide solutions to society. Totally different. It's totally different way of engagement because we meet with people every day. It's a different
Because
form of engagement.
it's coming out of love.
Yes, it's a covenant of love. Yes, that's true. It's a covenant of love. And when you think about the idea of love, that itself is just a difficult one. Really. Yeah, it is because why should you? Isha, that was another question, which was why. I think I wrote that one somewhere on another different day, which was why. Oh, peace. Okay, it was the peace one where I wrote, why do you need peace? Like, why? Why can't you live without it? And this is the thing that everybody's doing. Everybody's going working night shift, that shift. Do that work, get a bigger work, push you and push you. But you need it. Like, you feel like I can endure this because I need all these things. You see, so peace is it important? It's like a side effect. You say, I think of peace when I get there. So I'm ready to just slug it out. I'm ready to do whatever I need to do. When I watched they watched some program where I saw the people trying to get into Europe from Africa, going through Libya and so on. The risk, they know what it is. They know that people are dying, but hey, I think if I get there, there's something brighter on the other side. So, hey, I can go through this sort of difficulty. Peace is secondary in that sort of setting. You're trying to go and get something. You're trying to make something better for yourself, And it's just instinct. You're just really working on basic instincts. This is another thing was that I found that your view that you're teaching through the book is superior knowledge. That's the truth. Because
the reason I come to Europe shouldn't be because it's a better life on the other side. The reason why I come to Europe should be because I'm sure that God is leading me to go there. That is His will for my life. And I have a purpose that I have to accomplish there. That is why I'm going.
Wow. Well, and the funny thing is a lot of people say the same thing. That's the thing. They will say the same thing. I'm going there. I'm going to be a missionary. I'm going there to do the purpose of God and so on and so forth. That type of thing.
Yeah, but they are putting that as a side reason, but it's actually supposed to be the motivating factor.
Sometimes it appears to be the motivating factor. It says to be the center. Sometimes.
Even if it is the center, who initiated it? Is it initiated from heaven? Or from me?
People will say they dreamt about it or something like that.
Okay.
The thing is that it's so so deceitful that it's hard to detect.
But at the back of their mind, they are thinking of the WWP, right?
WWP is there. It's just some people will say, oh, maybe, when I came to London or when I came here, I used to do this. I used to share on the train and all that. And now I don't know what's going on. This is London, the precious. No, that's who you were from the start. From the beginning, this was who you that's who you were. Nothing changed. It's just that you got exposed. The environment is different. There are more pleasures. There are more things. So those things now start to bring out attitudes and character that you did not know. They were suppressed in poverty. But when you come where you have choice, you have a TV channel here with over 200 channels and you can watch anything you feel like watching, and it's on 24 hours, then hey, your attitude just changed. Like you start being held. So who you are is what you are, and it's essentially. So this is about going to who you are, going to the essence of who you are. and changing that in terms of changing your value system. And another thing is when you have a society that is built on living for, like miracles or blessings or things working out for me, it creates this desire where you have this desire to do something, desire to have. And you have this desire in your heart that this is what this is. It fuels that idea that you should be going for something, because okay, it's going to work out for me. It's going to work out for me. That thing is so dangerous because principles mean nothing in that world. In that world, principles do not exist. And people might say, I'm very principled. I do the right thing. Yes, you do the right thing. You do the right thing, but when it comes to love, that's when we know. Like, when it comes to love, then you see, wait a minute, can you really follow the principles down to that? You find at the end of the day, you compromise. I think the example would be the Nigerian case where you have the ministers who are there decreeing people to die and to kill. It's the kind of thing that, yes, you say principles, you have the principles, but then they deny the principles go away, at the end of the day when pressure comes or when it fits their benefits and so on. So yeah, so that was one of the things I picked up from the book so far. Yeah, there were so many things that I got. It was it's probably too much to actually.
Yeah, we have to hear them.
Yes, I had the slide. I think one of the things I did, because what I thought was that we'll be able to discuss first, and then after discussing, I had a slide. I sent it, but I don't think it's sent in the right format.
Oh, the
Because
slides. I
yes,
don't know. Let me ask
I
my
had
team if they
my,
have the slides.
I don't think it.
Okay, yeah, it's not. It didn't go in the right form. All
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah. Because what I did was to put Kindle notes, and I had my computer here that I thought that maybe I'll turn the laptop to the computer, but yeah, I guess that would be more. It won't be clear, maybe,
Yeah.
or
Can you read
yeah, it
it?
won't. Okay, let me see. I'll try and log in and trying to uh, see if I can read some of them. Okay, yeah, okay. Okay, so what I did was I highlighted I highlighted some of the things that you wrote. So I highlighted no, when I was reading your book, you have quotes. You put quotes
Yes.
in there. So
Yes.
I highlighted the quote and sometimes the text following it. Because I noticed that when you want to make a real point, you summarize it with that quote.
Yes.
And sometimes then following it or preceding it, there'll be the message itself.
Yeah.
So that was why I just highlighted them and tried to put them on slide. And this was each of us has meaning and we bring it to life. It's a way to be asking the question when you are the answer. Joseph Campbell. So that was one very good one. Then for that you said truth is ageless, truth is timeless, truth cannot be modernized, neither does it change with civilization. Truth remains the same from generation to generation, and it works for any person who applies it. No respect of race, religion, gender, or nationality. Now, when it comes to this definition of truth, I think this is your biggest challenge in your work in Nigeria now, in terms of trying to correct or addressing the things that are
You
wrong.
got that absolutely right. I've started encountering it already.
Yeah, because it comes up. Just put my fan on. Because there's the whole thing about truth. When you start talking about truth, the question comes up: who are you to say you're the truth, or who are you to talk about the truth? Like you need to be up there to be something. You need to be perfect to be able to talk about truth. So all sorts of things start to come up from the idea of truth. And I don't think it's something that is only a Nigerian thing or something that's only an African thing or something that's only even a Christian thing. I think even if you brought this in a liberal kind of world and talk about truth, there's relative, there's a, relativism, there's relative, truth is relative. That is one of the things that, they will teach you when you go to university, they tell you that, truth is relative, is perspective. It's this person's truth is that person's truth. It's different from that person's truth. I think it was Donald Trump's lawyer who recently came up and said, truth is not truth. So, this is the same thing everywhere. So when you come up and say truth, then everybody questions that. Like, yeah. So that stood out for me because that says, it shows the sense of absolutism, as they call it, absolutism of the truth. And when you talk about absolute truth, it's something a lot of people will not accept. I think even usually, this is from what I've seen reading your book, there are either people who really understand what truth is, in terms of what truth is by principles and what principles do in your life, and religious people that will stand for truth. Those are the two people that will stand for truth. And that's the sad part, is that the religious people will also claim truth, as well as the people who really understand truth. So you find some people who are not necessarily, they're not Christians, but they will stand for truth. And
Yeah.
that is truth. That is truth. They will stand for righteousness, for justice. They stand for doing things right. That is truth as it is. But then you have people who will stand and religiously stand for truth, but they don't even know, they're not relating to it. They're not related to what they're saying.
Yeah.
So you can't stand for truth you don't even relate to it, or you don't understand. So that otherwise then it's not truth really. It could be the same thing. Another one, you said, I will prepare and someday my chance will come. Abraham Lincoln. Wow, that was such a thing that you had to prepare your life. Then it was this Jeremiah 9:23-24. What life is it? Let not the wise boast of their wisdom, or the strong boast of their strength, or the rich boast of riches, but let the one who boast about this, that they have the understanding to know me, and the Lord who exercises kindness, justice, and righteousness of them. For in these I delight. Because I think this was one of the foundational passages of the whole book. And this was where I got the idea of internalizing things through dignity. Because it was this idea of boasting, that if you boast about this, that you understand me. So it was that, yes, you can't express yourself in the world or relate in the world without having a self-perception. And you need self-perception, you need dignity to operate. And dignities of different levels of dignity. But the dignity that this passage is saying is one where it's about kindness, it's about justice, it's about doing things right. So, which is absolutely different. It's different. And I thought that this is good as a side thing. So I had this view that, do righteousness, justice, I don't do anything bad, but it's like a cute little thing you put at the side. And it's the kind of thing that you could actually discard it sometimes if you need to, sometimes you can be unkind, so sometimes you need to be wrong. So it's not the kind of thing that, people take on, at least I wasn't necessarily taking it completely. I want to do things right. I do that. It's just a side principle for me. I grew up in kind of home that doing the right thing is what you do. So I'd hardly, compromise. But still, it's not. It wasn't absolute. It wasn't a sense of being absolute. So that was one passage. Then this was value what you possess. The ultimate value of life depends upon awareness and the power of contemplation, rather than upon mere survival. That was Aristotle.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, it's interesting that someone like Aristotle had actually thought of this. And they said, take heed and beware of covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things he possesses.
Yes.
And all these things kept making me see that, wait a minute, there's so much proof, so much evidence in terms of a lot of, people have said it, both secular, both past the Bible, and so it's quite interesting to know that these things were there. This one says, so teach us the number of days that we may gain a heart of wisdom.
And that is the strategy in writing my books. I try to back it up by authorities from different. Don't just believe the Bible. Maybe the Bible is not an authority for you, but believe the philosophers, believe the great men, believe the achievers, and all of them are saying the same thing. You've got to give it a thought.
Yes. And that was another thing that came up: the importance of learning, because this one is life is a gift of trust. I'm indebted to my father for living, but to my teachers for to my father for living, but to my teachers for living well.
Yeah.
Alexander the Great mentioned that.
Yes.
And when I looked at that, and I think there was another scripture you spoke where you said something about Jesus mentioning that after that, the next thing he wanted to do was to go and learn. I can't remember what it was, but there's a scripture you said that Jesus emphasizes the need to go after you've gone to go and learn. And I hadn't really realized the importance of learning in that sort of way. That learning was a fundamental thing that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to actually go for learning in that way. And yes, the purpose of human life is to serve and to show compassion and the will to help others. Albert Schweitzer. Understanding the purpose of life is such a vital subject for every living human being. So many who are alive today are completely clueless regarding the purpose of life. Now, purpose of life has its own thing, because purpose of life, uh, that's another area that you need to know your purpose. And yeah, you mentioned, I don't know, I think I've had another slide. You mentioned that a lot of it has to do with your gifts and what you are able to do.
Yes.
Yes, of what you're able to do. And I saw that need to improve myself in terms of to not ignore the things that I could do that are different from other people, not to ignore the things I'm passionate about or I care about or I think about or unusually than probably other people do. That was one of the things that I picked up from that part. There's so many of them. I just probably will just pick just a few. Um, okay. Yes, you were put on this earth to achieve your greatest self, to live out your purpose and to do it courageously. Dr. Steve Maraboli. Everything that God created has a specific function and purpose, and that includes you. God gave you life and certain unique abilities for a reason. And yeah, I mean, the problem when you've actually been very religious for a long time is when you hear things like this, they don't really resonate anymore to you because you hear it all the time. I'm unique. I'm special, and so on. And you feel as if to quicken that thing in you, you need to do something extraordinary, which I think is what is being abused. So a lot of people will say, you need to get a mantle to bring out what you have in you, or um, you know, put the anointing oil somewhere, or get the special oil, or do something special. Like you have to do something to bring out your own potential. But you teach it in a way that you already have everything that is there, and God
Yes.
has already given it to you. So
Yeah.
you don't need anybody to be able to carry out what you already have in you.
Yes.
So I thought that was menu. Yes, and they said the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away.
Yep.
Pablo Picasso. I thought, wow. When you begin solving problems close to where you are and improving yourself daily through an effective self-education program, your mind will be opened to the real purpose for your being. Wow. And that self-education means so much different to me now. So much difference. Sitting with one book the way I have now. I know I've been reading it for such a long, long time. I think I understand it a lot, and even then, I still feel like I'm not there yet. Uh, I want to be completely, have no doubts, and be able to step out without any fear, without any doubts. To be able to go in to do what I feel like doing. To do what I feel like I'm gifted to do completely. So that was a very important one. Yeah. And another thing is fear. And I wanted to know what, in terms of what you felt, sir, about your view in terms of relationship between fear and the essence and value of life, in terms of the role fear plays, maybe in hindering or maybe in pushing people forward even to know their value. Because I think fear is so ever present. It's always there for lots of people, and it's fear of the unknown. Like even to accept something like this, and you say, "Oh, okay, I want to scrap everything I've ever known and start following this." The fear comes in. Are you sure this is? Are you sure this is right? Are you sure this is what you're supposed to do? Are you really sure? If you do this now, the example, because you gave the example of Mother Teresa. I said, are you sure you want to be like Mother Teresa, really? Are you sure that's the life you really want? You want to be like that? Is that the kind of person? Yes, you'll be famous, but hey, is that really it? Hey, you have to take care of your family. Hey, you have a wife there. You have people to take care of.
But that's
Fear.
exactly
You
why
come into
Jesus
it.
said, don't not to worry about what to eat, what to drink, what to wear.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Worry is the thing that if you don't, it's probably one of the trigger points that I was saying about habits. I think worry triggers a lot of things, and it's when they say don't worry. It's like suppress that, put it off, or put off that trigger of worry, because worry leads to so many other things, that affect you and derail you. You can't worry and actually do any of these things in terms of living for these type of values. I don't think it's fully possible to do that. Um, and also, there was something I read before, which was the one. I think it had to do with justice in terms of standing up for people, justice, and knowing what you want to stand up for, and standing up for something. And you did mention that if you don't stand up for something, it was my daughter that listened to it. I think he said if you don't stand up for anything, I don't know how he put
You
it.
will fall for anything. If you don't stand,
Yes, yeah. Is
yes,
it that if you don't stand for anything, you fall for anything, or
yes.
something like
If you
that?
don't have
Yeah. So my
something
daughter,
to live for or and die for, then you don't really deserve to live. If you don't stand for something, then you will fall for
yeah.
anything.
Yes, he mentioned something like that, and it hit my daughter so much. She said, "What?" Because sometimes she reads with me, so she'll say, "Oh, you're reading," and I'll read to her and so on. She said, "What? Are you serious?" She said, "I've been living 9 years, and I haven't been living." So what she did was funny, because she went straight to her room, got out a piece of paper, and she went on Wikipedia on her own and researched Nigeria and started writing about all the things about Nigeria. She said, "I want to
Wow.
find something to do about it." Now, that for me shocked me, because it's not like we do that kind of thing at home, or it's not something I've modeled, or it's not something I've done. She just did it on her own. But it sort of fits her interest, because she likes watching geography, she's into geography, she researches different countries as her own interest. Um, so yeah, so she picked up that, and I thought, whoa, that was it. That hit her, that you had to live for something. Um,
Brilliant.
and living
Brilliant.
living for something is scary. Living for something is scary. Sometimes it's easier to live for nothing, or to live for multiple things, so that you can fit into different situations. So if, for example, you get into if you have a very strong belief, you have one solid belief, you get into one environment where that belief could be persecuted, or that belief could be is unpopular, then you become unpopular with the belief. So it's easier to be a bit circular. They just, okay, in this setting, okay, I have my views, but okay, it's what it is. Not like standing up out there and saying this. So that was something that, really got me thinking. And I felt that I needed to, personally, even that was a personal thing for me, I needed to adapt that, so that when I'm working or when I'm anything, I have one, this is what you expect from me all the time. That was something that really moved me, that I found very good in the book. And also, the book was split into two parts of it.
Yes.
There was understanding the value of life, because I also printed out the nuggets. So there are too many of them, really. So the nuggets that were here, the golden nuggets. Well, you split the book into two parts. There was let me find it. Yes, part two was how to truly live, which is what you put, and living from God's perspective.
Yes.
And he said an important way to keep growing is never stop asking questions. The person who is afraid of asking is afraid of learning. This is the golden nuggets for chapter 6. Studying and learning brings approval in life, and to truly live from God's perspective, you must humble yourself and become a learner in life. Those who commit to learn improve themselves. They will make fewer mistakes in the journey of life than those who don't. And that just really puts up the sense of having to learn, having a culture of learning. When you understand life as a gift, there's no room for necessary boasting or showing off. When you live for others, you never die, because the essence of your being keeps pulsating through the lives of those you have affected. And
Yes.
I think that is the bottom line of it, really, that your reward is in the people and the lives that are impacted. Yeah, and then people will say, is that what I'm going to eat? It comes back to this. Am I going to eat that? Like, okay, you have people that are happy, it's pulsating through their life. Meanwhile, I'm struggling to pay my bills. No, I'm sorry. I have to actually, deal with, getting this money, willpower, and then I will go and, touch somebody who will remember. So it's not completely as the first thing I'm doing is doing just that. where what I'm doing pulsates through that way. And when you devote yourself to others, for others, your life carries on a transgenerational impact because not only are you affecting life positively, but posterity to come. So it's a lot to do with the future and a lot to do with long-term impact. Until the self in you dies, the true leader in you will not arise. Now that was a conflict area as well. Why will the true leader in me arise now? When the true leader actually manifests, when you are trying to get wisdom, wealth, and power. That's the way I see it. Like to be a true leader, you have to get that listing because it's your strategic approach to wealth, wisdom, and the acquisition of power that brings out leadership. So to say that until yourself dies, it's like saying that everything you know about leadership is nothing. I mean, I've done leadership courses, I've done all those things. Although leadership courses, they don't talk about the power ego part of it. They don't talk about it. They just bring, they teach leadership as principles or as management principles. So they give you the management principles. They don't tell you how you carry it out. But the reality is on the ground. You have people who are not ready to cooperate with you. You have people that don't like you. You have to exert power. You have to have strategies of manipulation. And these are the things. How do you manipulate people? How do you get people to think in your way? And all these many strategies. There's so many books that do those type of things. But yours is saying die to self first. Now that is completely just
the opposite direction, huh?
It's not the opposite direction. It says lose everything first. And why would you want to lose everything? You need it. I mean, all these things you have are your arsenal. They are the things that are going to keep you forward. You need it. It's like Uncle Sam, the concept of Uncle Sam. Like leave Uncle Sam so that you can actually do the things that the kingdom requires you to do. But then you think, not until I read, I read it only once, so I haven't really understood that book yet. Fully, I can't say I do. From my experience with this essence, value of essence, I don't think I know that book yet. But until I've read it enough. But I see that I found out how much attachment I had to my LinkedIn page.
To what?
LinkedIn, your LinkedIn page.
Yeah.
Or your title. I found out that work gives titles, and the title has value. So when I say you're VP, vice president, okay, I'm the president of this organization. And it's funny, you see it, even people who haven't achieved necessarily in terms of maybe as much as if you use money or, status as a way of measuring. People put big titles everywhere. I'm CEO, or, you're quick to want to put these titles out there. They make up their own thing and then say, I'm CEO of it. Because it gives you the sense of somebody that has status. So the position and the title has value. Because if you're going to another work or you're going to another place of work, you want to see what was your position the last time? What sort of responsibilities did you hold? But you are talking about developing yourself to the point where even the way it looks like, when nations are looking for you, just because you've actually developed yourself passionately for people and because you understand the problems of people, that you've gained so much value that even nations start to seek that.
Yes.
You're not looking at a small place. It's very high, but it's a high place of service as you grow into. So it's a life runs on the engine of passion, and the values of the kingdom are spread through zestfulness. And wow, that is so different because therefore passion is important because we all have passion. But passion is very easy when it's for WWP, when it's for wisdom, wealth, or power. It's very easy. And it's also the cause of worry when you are not getting wisdom, wealth, and power, though you are trying a lot.
But I personally feel more passion when I'm aware that I'm doing it for God to spread His kingdom. I feel greater drive.
Okay. I mean, people will say that, you have that drive because you're a pastor. That's your job. So they expect you to have that type of passion. That's what you do for a living. So that's it. So, hey, I have my living and I have to have my passion for what my own thing is. So I think it's completely different because you are not suggesting that it's something that's only the case if you are a pastor. you are saying that it is the case regardless of what you are doing, and that everything should be, you should have passion for, for this sense of adding value and helping and being kind and, living, doing things right and justice and standing up for justice, which is a very difficult thing, really. Even though it looks very easy, it is a tough thing to do, to stand up for something that you see. That's why you grow into it. And I feel as if, I see people who are growing into things like that, taking on difficult,
You
challenging things
know,
now.
this
Yeah.
technical issue we had in the beginning really stole a lot of
Yes.
our time. Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately, our time is coming to an end already. What would you like to
Okay.
say to all the people watching us about this book before you go?
I would say that if you were like me that thought that Essence and Value of Life is not a book to be read, I think you're wrong. You need to read the book. I think it's a foundational book. It's a foundational book. I've never realized that I will ever read it. And to tell you the fact, I don't like, well, I don't know if I should say this. I guess I'll say it because I almost feel like I don't like the book because it's a book that just it pushes you to think of things you don't want to think about. There's sometimes you don't want to think about. You don't want to think long term. Sometimes you don't want to think too long term, or you don't want to think long term of the sense of, oh, when you get to your end, what is going to be the end? Death. Oh, no, 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 that's too far. I think I can make some money. When I'm getting close to 60, then I'll just probably, help people with all the things I've got. And to tell you, fact, a lot of people hardly think about it. They don't like to think about end, you know. But you never know when end is. I mean, and that's another thing I've learned from you. Because lots of, especially in religious settings, particularly church, there's a lot of emphasis on not dying. So a lot of people have a very big confidence that, I'll get to the end like Billy Graham. I will, 100, I'll get to 100 and I'll close my eyes and just go. That is a sense of achievement. But one of the things that I've learned, just looking at it, because of so many repeat things, teaching, that death is not something to be afraid of. It's not something, it can come anytime and you should be ready for it. Now that's so different. So people say, don't say that, you don't want it to happen to you. But you teach it in a way that you should live so much by the principles. Give yourself completely out, for people, for doing God, for the kingdom, that there's nothing left to hold back. And there's nothing, like you gave the example that, many great people died quite young. And, Jesus even in his 30s. So, it's not about the longevity of life. It's more about the impact and how much of purpose you achieve. Yes. So I think I picked that from you. And I think also that people who read the other books, like the very good books like Money Won't Make You Rich or all those other books, money, the ones about money and so on, which are very good because you put a lot of principles there. Will they might apply those things and still attain wealth, but not having or understanding wealth in the way you teach it, I think it's going to leave you hollow. I don't know. I haven't gotten to that sort of degree of wealth to say I've experienced it to know. But I think it will leave you hollow. You will still be empty because that's what your teaching is. That if you don't want to be empty, if you don't want to get to the end of what you're chasing and find out it's a mirage, all these WWP, wisdom, wealth, power, that they're mirages, that you get to the end and there's really nothing at the end of it, that there's something that's bigger than that, then you will
Absolutely
give it.
so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to the second half of the book, which is, so if we don't live for wisdom, wealth, and power, what do we live for
Yeah.
then? And that is the second
Yes.
half of the book. So for
That's the
that,
second half.
I think you people will need to go and get the book. But you can actually get this book for free on Kindle Unlimited, on Amazon, Kindle Unlimited. You can go and download it for free. Or you could go and buy it on Kindle or by writing to my office, dssbooks@gmail.com. But, anyhow, I want to thank Brother Ben today. He's done a good job. I'm not sure I'm very happy with his microphone or with his sound.
Oh, really? Was it
Yeah,
good?
I don't think your
Okay.
sound was great, but you did a great job yourself. So in the next
Okay.
25 minutes, I'm coming back to continue the series on how to know God and be a friend of God. Thank you so much, Ben. See you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye bye.